But now we are here today with Niels next to me from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology and Aaron Down from Swinburne University of Technology. And actually, before they get started, I want to ask you a question. Have you actually already met your team? Please feel free to share in the screen in the chat if you already met your teammates. Do you also maybe already have set a goal for this week? No? Well, those two gentlemen here will now give you all the tools to answer this question after the session with a big, loud yes. So Florian, just wait for this session and then you're going to be able to answer this with yes. So the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Maya. And Sushi, you said earlier it was tough to speak after Birgit Mager. I have to say kudos to you for the presentation that you just gave. It's tough to speak after you. So with this, let's get started with our goal setting session. So as Maya already said, I'm Niels from the other KIT, as Sushi would call it, the KIT in Karlsruhe. And I'm here not alone, I'm here at least virtually with Aaron Down from Swinburne University in Australia, and kind of virtually, because she's not here present this week, Marie Bengtsson from Linköping University in Sweden, who actually compiled the stack and also some of the activities together with us last year. And today we improved on what we did last year, but still we want to give reference to Marie. So with this, let's get started. Well, we are at the beginning of an exciting time. As I always call it, we are embarking on an expedition, and the expedition is hopefully finished next year in June. And next year in June, you all want to declare victory. You want to have the coolest project of the year, and you want to be successful with your endeavor. So the question is, where are you now? You're here, you're at the beginning, you're very excited, and you're eager to get going. However, there is something like the fog of the unknown in the middle. So at the moment, you know, there's big ambitions for the end of the program and a lot of energy at the beginning, but there's probably a lot of uncertainty in the middle. Well, what we want to encourage you to do is to speak about today and tomorrow a little bit about exactly these two poles of your journey. So you could set goals for what do you want to have achieved at the end of the program? What are your ambitions? This is probably the kind of goals that are a little bit more vague. And we encourage you to think of three types of goals that you can achieve. There's obviously the goals that you want to achieve in terms of a project. I mean, you want to have the cool solution whatsoever, and you want to make a contribution to your sponsor, you want to discover new ground, and so forth. So these kind of goals are related to your project and the content of your project. There's another type of set of goals that is probably around your team. So what kind of team goals do you want to have achieved at the end? What kind of atmosphere as a team? What kind of a social setting do you want to have achieved at the end of the program? So do you want to have established as a safe place to discuss? Do you want to learn about how to run a team like this? So these are the kind of team-related goals. And last but not least, probably at the beginning of the program, also some of the very important ones to consider are your individual objectives. So each of you joined this program, and you all know that this is a tough program. It's a long program, it's effort intensive and so forth. So you all joined this program with your own agenda. And in your own agenda, you said, well, this kind of project, I want to get whatsoever, international relations. I want to, push myself to the limits, or, I want to do some project management because I've always wanted to do it. So you all have your individual goals. And we also want you to, as I say, get aware of what are your individual goals as each individual participant here, and probably with your team throughout the next couple of hours and maybe tomorrow and so next day, share these objectives that you want to have achieved at the end of the program individually with your teammates. So these are the 3 poles: project, team, and individual. And what this next chart shows is we do it in a certain way for the 2 poles of the project. So the end of the project and the GKO week. Now stop. So you get aware of what you want to have achieved at the end. And then you reflect on, so what does this mean for the kick-off week? So what is the first thing that we want to do in the next 5 days? So we establish ourselves as a well set up team, right? And for the, as I already said, the long-term goals, i.e. the goals that you want to achieve at the end, have achieved at the end of the program, these are probably the more vague goals. So they have more like a mission vision kind of character. The goals that you want to define for this week are more concrete. I mean, it's only 5 days, it's time boxed. And so and you know exactly where you start today. So it's far more concrete than what you want to have achieved at the end. And for this, to define short-term goals, there is a nice framework, which some of you may know, that's called the SMART framework. For those of you who have not come across the SMART framework, it is attributed to Peter Drucker. However, it's around for a while, and it gives us some guidelines, a little bit of a framework, how we define goals, so we actually can relate to them much better, and we can achieve much better on these goals. So, as we already know, it's an acronym, SMART, and it's actually an acronym, not like sugar, where we don't know what the acronym is, but here it is an acronym and it has a meaning. SMART stands for S as specific. So try to formulate as precisely as possible what you want to have achieved at the end of a certain time frame, i.e. end of the week. Measurable, second letter. Try to connect with something that you can measure and that you can also prove that you have achieved it. If you talk about individual, or if you talk about team goals and the atmosphere, this is probably a bit more difficult than if you say we want to have done 5 interviews. That's simpler. But you have to be a bit creative how you can actually measure if you have achieved your objective at the end of the week or not. In terms of achieved, also make sure that you are not setting up goals that you cannot achieve. So make sure that they are appropriate for the time frame, that you have the resources, the capabilities, and so forth at hand, so you can actually reach these goals. They should also be relevant to your project. And as I said before, relevant in our case means we have 3 dimensions, and they should be relevant at least for any of the 3. And you can decide which of these dimensions are the most important for you in this particular week. This also depends on the maturity of your team and the project, and the time that you already spent together. So for teams that meet for the first time this week, it's probably a bit more on the team side. For teams who are collaborating for already 3 weeks, it's probably a bit more on the project side, but you can determine what's relevant to you. And time box, this is the easy part here of this acronym, because we have a week. So on Friday afternoon or so, you should be finished, and you should know if you have reached your objective or not. We have prepared at least for the goal setting. So the first few hours of the GKO, the first hours of your working time, some exercises I would call, and a canvas that may help you. The central part of this canvas is called the team canvas. And I'm sure that Aaron will tell you a little bit more what you can find on this on the chart. So just in a nutshell, you will find aspects that relate to all 3 dimensions that I mentioned before. You can see it here on the chart: the project, the team, and the individual side. So whatever you discuss or wherever you put your emphasis, there is a space to note down and also capture what you have discussed. And for filling this canvas, so we don't leave you with a canvas, we also have some, let's say, exercises that are good fun and that help you to fill at least some of these boxes on the canvas. And Aaron will give you a walk through these exercises that may help you. So Aaron, are you around?
I am. So I might take over the screen if I can, which I have access. Beautiful. So we're going to jump into, or we've set up our canvases on Miro. So I'm assuming most people will be somewhat familiar with Miro, given that most people are collaborating and working in teams remotely. And they're in the Slack channel on the event links. There'll be a post shortly, if not already, which will have each team's Miro board. So these have been created by the Sugar Network. And this is a board that you guys can use as your team. You're also welcome to set up your own teams. But this is where you'll find the team canvas laid out, which looks something like you see on the screen now. So as Niels said, the aim of the session, the next 45 minutes, hour, each team will take slightly different time periods to do this, is around this team canvas. So you'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner. That's sort of the goal of the session, to sort of fill that out. But to help you do that, I'm getting a bit of feedback. There we go. Is to get to know your team. So we can't just go straight into setting goals without sort of unpacking and getting to know each other. So the first sort of two sections of the exercise look at introducing yourself to the different members of your team. For a lot of you, this is the first time you might be connecting virtually. For other teams, you might have already introduced yourself, so you might shorten that sort of period of the task. So step one is creating this visual collage. So Maya's been a perfect student here and produced her one last year. And this is just a visual collage of yourself to introduce some of your interests, your hobbies, where you come from, what university you're representing, and your preferred name, and doing that through a visual sort of collage. So you'll find on the board that each team member will have a space that you can drop in images and text to use as a bit of an icebreaker to share with your team. So you should spend about 5-10 minutes to populate that for each of you. So you do that individually. And then depending on the size of your team, spend in half an hour to get to know each other. So there's a range of, so you can start by introducing those visual collages that you've made. And then there's a range of questions here, and they're really good conversation starters. If anyone knows the Big Bang Theory, you'll recognize these questions from an episode called The Intimacy Acceleration. And credit to our colleague in Lintrop Marie, who pulled these together for the kickoff last year. And there's some really, interesting ones that you could talk for hours and hours about to build that sort of social connection. So you're not going to have time to cover all the questions, but they're there for you to use in other meetings in the team, with the team throughout the week, or even as you progress on your projects after the kickoff. So you're spending a little bit of time to have a conversation, get to know the people, and sort of get those conversations going. That's going to help you fill in some of the basic information about the team canvas. So you'll know at that point, you might have a conversation about a team name. You'll obviously know your team challenge, which universities you've got obviously on the team. You might also have a discussion about you've got a team GIF or a GIF, a team song, some sort of fun things there for you as well as the people that you have in the team. The last exercise looks at goal setting. So once you've had that sort of half hour, 40 minutes to get to know each other, again, if you know each other, maybe just using those questions to get to know each other on a deeper level, you might not spend as long. So the third exercise looks at the team canvas and setting those goals. So there's some instructions there on sort of the different goals that you might set, and that will obviously help you fill out some elements of the team canvas. Also recognizing that different teams are coming into the kickoff at different points. So some students are starting today. Other students started with the paper parkour mini golf last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Other teams have already started working on their corporate challenges already. So that might be, depending on your team's progress, you might need to share what you've done so far, and maybe some of that project work to facilitate really clear goals for your team this week at kickoff. And so that really ties into the canvas. So you'll notice on each of these, there's spots for you to fill with little questions that prompt you. So your common goals, the values, different rules and things that you might institute as a team. And on the right-hand side, there's a specific spot for the goals that you're going to address this week at kickoff. So they can be anything from the examples that Niels used before. And that's pretty much it. We've put a little reminder here tomorrow in the kickoff morning session in Europe, so 9:30 till 10:30 CET. There's what will be our first global SGM. So SGM stands for Small Group Meeting. It's one of those terms that derived from Stanford, thanks to Sushi's awesome history. And that will be a sort of forum where you'll be able to share your progress. You might even like to present this team canvas with the teaching team. And there'll be a representation, a diverse representation of teaching team from across the universities in the network, where you can ask for feedback, you can ask questions, and discuss your project with the teaching team. So this is something that you'll sort of regularly do in your local institutions, and we want to sort of do some of that within the kickoff event this week as well. So you might like to sort of try and prepare and finalize your team canvas by the SGM tomorrow, so you can talk about your goals and get feedback on ways that you might be able to start working to achieve them this week. And that's about it. There's a small little sort of information which you can have a read of when you get into your Miro board about team roles. So some teams might have already established different roles, and there's a whole different range of frameworks. So that sort of just proposes some suggestions there as well. So I'll stop sharing my screen there. I believe I got a ping to say that the Slack had gone off. So each team should be able to navigate to their own Miro board. So as we said, that's for the global team. And this now marks the first sort of point where you'll start working. So for those in Zoom, you'll be sort of ushered into breakout rooms, and I might get Vanessa or Maya to pop back in to show us how that magic will happen. For those of you in Nice, obviously you're face-to-face with some of your team, so you've got the ability to have that conversation face-to-face and populate that into the Miro canvas. This is sort of the last session of the altogether of the schedule. So there's, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, sugar people, that you've got sort of an hour and a half, so until midday at the absolute latest within this Zoom call. So you can talk for as long or as little. Obviously, depending on the top size of your team, you might fill that full hour and a half from now. And then obviously there's other schedules. I know particularly those of you that have gathered in Nice, you've got sessions kicking off from midday. So that's the task. So you've got basically the next hour and a half, depending on where you're at with your team, to think about the kickoff, think about what goals you want to achieve, and use those conversation starters to get to know each other a little bit more on a deeper level. So I'll leave it there and hand over to the breakout room magic, because there might be some instructions with that. Before we all split into the breakout room, let me add one sentence and then I hand over to Mario.
Even 2 sentences.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot, Aaron, for walking us through the Miro board and preparing all these wonderful exercises. A little bit of an encouragement. Last year we had a great experience with one team that actually spent quite a bit of time in the kickoff week with getting to know each other as a team, and not only doing this for 10 minutes and showing how I'm XYZ coming from this country and having these kind of hobbies, but actually diving a little bit deeper into, let's say, their personality and collaborating as a team, and what does it mean to us. No, just to keep in mind, you're all about to embark on an expedition, and if you would take this analogy, if you would embark on a real expedition, you would probably make sure that you know the people very well that you have, on the journey with you. And this is also, don't underestimate this aspect of the three dimensions, the three goal dimensions: project, team, and individual. So in particular, those teams that haven't met before, or that, are recently met before, at the first time, make sure that you spend some time on forming your team and talking about the soft facts. Yeah.